guys, for today's speech, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a prompt. So I want you to imagine, now you can close your eyes if it helps you, but I want you to imagine you're at your friend's house or your friends are at your house. You guys are hanging out, having a great time, smoking weed, and probably playing video games or watching TV. And you all collectively decide that you're getting a little hungry. But there's nothing in your house, so you guys all load up in your car and decide to go take a drive up to the local convenience store. On the way to the convenience store, there's a specific intersection, and at this intersection, there's a big fountain. Now, sober, you would have ignored this. You would have seen this fountain a million times, and it means nothing to you. But you're not sober right now. Right now, you're driving high, and you're driving high while distracted. Staring at that fountain, you forget that you're driving a vehicle approaching an intersection whose lights are changing from yellow to red. Seeing this a little too late, you decide to slam on your brakes, but there's just not enough time. You're sliding through the intersection and there's cars already crossing it. And then, bam. Next thing you know, you're waking up in the ICU with a police officer standing over you telling you that you're lucky to be alive and also telling you how unlucky your friends in the backseat were. You see, THC affects our coordination, our reaction time, as well as our decision-making skills. That's why it should never be consumed before or during operating a motor vehicle. Now, I know we've all had our experiences with weed before, right? I mean, I sure as hell have. So, for those of you who don't know how it affects you, let me give you a little bit of interesting, well, maybe not interesting, but just facts about THC. Or marijuana, the main ingredient being THC, also known as delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. Yes, I had to look that up. And some of the effects would be happiness, exhilaration, relaxation, and increased sociability, as well as a feeling of merriment. Something I never thought I would say, but it's on the DEA fact sheet, so I had to use it, right? And some of the bad effects would be delusions, impaired judgment, reduced coordination, dysphoria, and paranoia. So, moving on, my 2 points for this topic are going to be increased risk of accidents, as well as some legal and financial consequences of driving under the influence of marijuana. And starting off with my first point of risk of accidents, we have slower reaction times. Now, on average, a sober person's reaction time at 50 miles per hour is anywhere from 3/4 of a second to a full second. And for someone under the influence, that's about 30 to 50% higher. So imagine you're driving at 50 miles an hour. It takes you about 200 feet to come to a complete stop. And when you're high, that's about 300 feet. That doesn't seem like a lot, but that's the difference between you tapping the back of somebody's bumper and going through their back window. Now, the next part of this is going to be reduced coordination and drowsiness. And coordination being able to pay attention to multiple things at once. So when you're driving a car, that's going to be looking at your side view mirrors as well as your rear view mirror, taking in this information at a glance, and making a judgment on it. Now, drowsiness, which in fact causes about 6,000 fatalities per year while driving, is another part that affects you when smoking marijuana. And for my last point, it is a false sense of confidence. And what I mean by that, for example, have you ever heard somebody say, yeah, I'm good to drive, bro? And they're like slurring their words or they're stumbling or something. They're clearly not okay to drive. That false sense of confidence affects people who smoke marijuana as well. In fact, in a randomized study done by this University of California, it showed that participants after 90 minutes of smoking weed were willing to drive a vehicle despite being fully impaired and incapable of driving. So now that we know the effects of marijuana on our body, let's talk about the legal and financial consequences of doing so while operating a vehicle. On my first point, I have a DUI, which when most of us hear that, we probably think about alcohol, right? And that's usually the case, but marijuana does classify as driving under the influence, and it is a jailable offense. Now, a DUI on your record causes a significant insurance increase. So on average, people pay anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a year for insurance, and with the DUI on your record, that goes up to 50 to 100%. So going from $200 something a month to almost $500, or right around $500 to $600, which is quite a bit. And this impact lasts for 3 to 5 years, so that's a lot of money. Now, our last consequence of a DUI is jail time. So for the first offense of a DUI, you get $5,000 to $1,000 in fines and up to 6 months of jail, as well as a year probation and 6 months of license suspension. And your second offense, it's anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 in fines, up to 9 months in jail, as well as a mandatory substance abuse program and 10 days in jail. And for your third offense, it becomes a third degree of felony, and that's $2,000 to $5,000 in fines, as well as up to 5 years in jail, and they revoke your license for 10 years. See, now you are responsible for your own actions, and don't let something as simple as smoking weed ruin the rest of your life by making an irresponsible choice of driving a car. And now that you've heard a little bit about my story, or not my story, well, my take on DUI and marijuana, how many of you guys are going to stop smoking before you decide to go outside the house? And if that's a little bit too much for you, how many of you guys are going to at least be responsible and let somebody else drive?